What's going on, team? So, Coach Troy here, and I'm going to be going over what I think to deem to be one of the greatest warm-ups in the business. It is my 5-phase warm-up series. I'm calling it a series just because we're breaking it down into 5 different categories to deliver you guys information and kind of go over why we do it. And I'll tell you, it has the embodiment of what we call in the strength and conditioning world, the ramp method. And the ramp method is to raise the heart rate prior to training, to activate muscles, to mobilize joints, and to potentiate movement patterns that we're going to be doing. So that's where my 5-phase warm-up series kind of stems from. But then just going through different training modalities, I was starting to catch myself having one specific one for bodybuilding, a different one for functional fitness, a different one for deep end fitness. So it's like, what's something that's going to completely get my body ramped up? I don't like taking pre-workouts. I want something naturally to just get the blood flowing and pumping and making sure that I'm mitigating injuries, man. That's how we stay being able to have progressive overload and change and adaptations occurring. Is the longer that we're able to train and the more availability to training is how we're going to see those changes. So how do we do that? We mitigate risk and injuries by doing a proper warm-up. So my 5-phase warm-up series starts off in phase 1. Phase 1 is where you're going to develop you're going to get into the heart rate, right? So we're trying to increase our heart rate. We're going from being in a stationary or static position, from couch to whatever. And we're just going to hop on any piece of gym equipment that is cardio based, your bike, your treadmill, your elliptical, your Stairmaster, anything for just about 2 to 3 minutes, just to start increasing that heart rate gradually and getting the body ready to perform whatever task that you're going to be performing. But as we get through with that general warm-up phase, now we're going to go on to phase 2. Phase 2 has about 6 different movement patterns that we do in that one. And this one is going to be that dynamic locomotive drill. So we're going to be doing our skips. When I say down and back, that's normally on the side of my gym, or at any gym that you're at. There's always an area that kind of has some free space. So I'd use that as long as it's at least 10 yards, 10 to 15 yards, you can use that down and back. So we're going to just do your old school childhood skipping down and back. That's going to engage some muscle fibers that you may not be really using that often. We're going to do your old school high knees. So I put your hands out in front of you and high knees, movement patterns down. Butt kicks, hands behind your butt, heels touching your butt. That's going to be stretching out those quads and getting those knees ready to perform something. Side shuffle, just because I like to train in all 3 planes. So we're going to go ahead and open up that abduction of the hip and really work that glute medius. Karaoke is just that, again, working in all 3 planes. So transitional, we're going to open up those hips and rotation in that spine. And then we're going to add on some bounding hops, right? And just getting that body to explode and be able to explode as well as receive a high demand on resistance or eccentric loading, right? When we bound, we jump high or far and our body's going to land. So we need to be able to receive that eccentric load. So that's our dynamic locomotive drills, down and back, outside, inside your gym, wherever you guys are. Try to get it 10 yards down, 10 yards back for a total of 20 yards in these movements. Now we get the heart rate all the way ramped up, and now we go into being able to have the body stretched out right now. So we go into phase 3, and this is mobility and range drills. So we're just trying to tap dance on some of these joints, make sure that they're ready and primed to get ready for whatever movement patterns we're going to be doing. So we're going to do some shoulder, hip, spine, joint activation, as well as some stretching. So the first thing that we do in phase 1 is just our walking high knee pull. So pulling your knee up to your chest, using that down and back method that we talked about in our last dynamic locomotive drills. So we're going to walk 10 yards down, 10 yards back, doing walking high knee pulls. Then we rotate and we start stretching the quad out, quad stretches down and back, walking. If we're not able to walk, if we're just starting off, we can do these movements static as well as even the high knees, butt kicks. We can all do those movements right there in a stationary position if we're not ready to be in that. This is what progressive overload is. It's through and through, even if it is within your warm-up. And the last movement that we do is a world's greatest stretch. That is a very long, wide lunge position, rotating that spine each direction, taking a couple steps in between and switching over to the other side. We do that down and back. That is really the world's greatest stretch because I feel like we open up and stretch and rotate all of our joints. We rotate and get a lot of muscle stimulation going on in that movement. And then from there, we transition over to some activation, right? We were talking about that ramp method. We talked about raising the heart rate up, activating muscles. So now we're going to go into activation and mobilizing as well. We're continuing on with mobilizing in phase 4. So we're going to sit on the floor and we're going to do 90-90s. So we're going to put our legs in ankle knee into a 90-degree position and rotate. And beginners, we can place our hands behind our hips. If we're advanced, we can hold our hands right in front of us and do 10 rotations on each side. Once we transition from that, we now go up to T's, Y's, and W's for shoulder activation on our TRX. If you don't have a TRX, you can use a band. If you don't have bands, you can use 5-pound dumbbells to do T's, Y's, and W's lying invertly on or supine on a prone on a bench. All right, prone on a bench. Walkout shoulder taps, hand release comes next. So you're going to do a walkout, 10 walkouts. So you would be in a triangular position, almost like a downward dog. Walk your hands out into a plank position and then walk your hands back in between your legs. You do that 10 times, then you transition into 10 shoulder taps. Then we would transition into 10 hand release push-ups. A portion of this, when we start with that hand release push-ups, they start to become some potentiating movements, right? If we are doing a chest day or something of that nature, right? So this is a double-edged sword right here in a great way. Once we're done with our walkout shoulder taps and hand release push-ups, we then move on to some lower body stimulation and activation of the hips. And we're gonna start doing some air squats. So we're gonna knock out 10 air squats. And that kind of wraps up phase 4, but it easily transitions right into phase 5, which is gonna be our movement pattern priming, AKA potentiating, right? In that ramp method, that is what potentiating, potential movement patterns that you could be doing today. And we kind of hit some of them, even in the T's, Y's, W's. If you're rowing, you could be potentially doing with that W could be activating the lats or the rhomboids for you. And now we're going to start off in this phase 5 movement primers with walking lunges, 10 yards down, 10 yards back. If it's a leg day or a push day, hip movement, knee extension, that's what's going to be potentiating movement patterns right there. So we have 10 yards down, 10 yards back, and then we're going to do kneeling donkey kicks. Or here at WEFiT, we really knock out leg extension. So we'll be down in a quadruped position to start off, and then you just press your hips and knees up to the sky and then bring your knees back down towards the floor. And that is what we call body weight leg extensions. Once we're done with that, we go ahead and finish off with a little bit more explosive skips or broad jump drills. And then we get right into our workout. But from that, it takes about 20 minutes, maybe 25. But what does that value? If that can keep you from being injured, it can put you in the right space to be able to mentally be ready to get into that training. Again, I take this time on this warm up. It may seem exhausting or daunting, but it allows me to create intentions. You know, from the time I hop on that treadmill and start walking for my 2 to 3 minutes, I'm visualizing this workout. I'm seeing myself get through some of the difficult lifts that I'm going to be having. I'm pushing myself through these visualizations. And then once I've gotten to the actual weight, it's like I've already seen this happen before. It might sound weird, but it's the God's honest truth, man. When I come in here, you create so much anxiety. It gives me a preparation time to learn how to control my breathing before the stimulus is really actually there. Because if I'm already stimulated during the warm-up and I'm going through my breathing patterns, when I'm actually about to try to hit this weight or go through this HYROX training or get in this deep end session, I remember that I have this breathing foundation that can always bring my heart rate back down and I can execute any task at any manner. So yes, again, it may seem like it's long and drawn out, but if you come to this warm-up with intentions to get better and to perform your task today, I promise you, you'll be very benefited highly from this warm up. Try it out. If there's days where you know that you're not doing lower body, you can stop after the walkout, shoulder taps and hand release push-ups. If you know that you're not doing upper body, you could just jump right straight into the squats, lunges, and leg extensions and skip that. So there's more than one way to skin this cat, but at least give it an attempt. Start off the first 4 phases for sure. Phase 5, you can manipulate that depending on what body part that you're working that day, if the potentiating manners aren't going to be cohesive with what you're training with. So again, I hope you guys try this. I've been using this same warm-up. If you've come here, it's kind of grown just a little bit, but it's always been, for the most part, at least the first 3 phases here at WEFiT for about the last 4 to 5 years. It's kept my clients healthy. It's kept us all being able to stay training as much as possible. We try to use it before training and post training. I at least run you through these first 3 phases again, just some high knee pulls, quad stretch, world's greatest, just to cool the body down, because we always want to enter the gym the right way, but even better yet, leave the gym the right way. So take advantage of this. I hope you guys try it. Thanks for checking me out.